Hello everyone. This is a short video which discusses about crime and punishment and how we can analyze crime and punishment through the lens of economics. So guys, this is a very relevant topic because the nature of crime has changed. Society is still fighting with crime, and with a system of law, we are trying to protect the society uh, from the different types of crimes, because crime is going to take away the economic performance from individuals as well as organizations. That is why it's an important topic. So we start the session with two important questions. The first question is, which acts are to be punished? This is a very important question because the basis on which we are going to punish will have the entire reply from the judiciary as to what kind of acts and how the punishment is designed. Basically, the penology part of it is an important discussion. Second is, if punishment is the solution to the problem, to what extent we are going to punish. Will the punishment be restricted to some kind of fines? Will it be a penal punishment? Will it always mean time in jail? So there can be different dimensions to the extent of the punishment. Now, if you look around, there are different types of crime which you can see, right? So there can be economic crimes, various types of economic offenses where people are playing with the economic rights of people. There can be some very menial crimes such as theft, because it is having an aspect of dishonesty. We need to look at the sources of dishonesty and how we can control theft, which is very anti economic, in the sense that it is going to take away the efficiency of people who are involved in the this kind of a transaction. Similarly, there can be crimes against nation, there can be crimes against society, crimes against people, property, or it can be for the gender. So I think for each and every human activity there can be a different type of relevant crime, and that is why it becomes an important subject. Uh, so if you look at the definitions which are given in Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, it gives you two things. One is the modus operandi, and second is uh, the extent of the punishment. So somewhere it is 3 years, somewhere it is 5 years, somewhere it is bailable, somewhere it is not non-bailable in character. So crime is it is always against the nation, it is always against the public in general. That is why it is a serious thing where governments and philosophers and policy makers, they are worried about the nature of crime and how we can control the crime. So if you look at the content in your textbook, we talk about various situations. For example, we started with the analysis of tort. In the tort chapter, we saw that one person hits the other person on the face and there is injury in the nose. Now remember that the definition of a crime is always emerging from the government, and government takes a cue from the social conditions. So somewhere the same action of hitting the other person may be taken very, very seriously, and somewhere people can say, oh, this can be treated as a tort. So are we going to fine that person and treat it as a tort, or should it go for punishment? But very interestingly, punishment may not be the solution all the time, because when you take the person to the jail authorities will have 2-3 observations. For example, if there is no vacancy in the jail for the new convict, should we build new jails? Is that a solution? Or should we have the proposition of freeing a few criminals? Can I free a few criminals so that the new convict can be accommodated? Of course, this is a very dangerous proposition, And that is why uh, we need to think about the solution of jailing. This is not a very easy solution for the country, because at an individual level that can be a proposition, but at a national level this may not be a very easy contention. So we need to think about this. Similarly, if you look at the uh, proposition of jailing a person, for how many years you will jail that person, because that has a economic aspect to it, right? Many times we find crimes around us. Maybe somebody breaks the glass of your car and takes some valuables from the car. For example, your music system is taken away. So when we try to recover from the criminal the cost of these two items, should it be only the glass and the music system, value of the music system? Will that send a signal of deterrence to the society? Will that be good? Or should we also add some kind of a monetary fine to send a deterrence message, so that next time when somebody breaks the glass of a car, that is seen very seriously? So should there be something called social cost? It's a very important question, guys. Now let us come to a very general activity which is carried out by criminals, not a very serious one. Suppose there is a lot of burglary in your area, right? So in that case, what can be the solution from the citizen? Because citizen is also worried about the valuables, assets, and the property that he has created. So if you face the problem of burglary, what will be the solution? The first solution may be barricading the entire house. Maybe we can think of bars, which acts as a obstruction for the thief. Secondly, can we go for burglary alarm? Will that be a good solution? Again, you can think about it. Or should we have some serious solution like holding a gun? Should we allow the gun culture so that we can take care of our safety? Of course, this can be good in some Western countries, but not good in India. So we have to think about these solutions, and this comes to the very important role of law. What is law supposed to do when crimes are happening? The law is supposed to minimize the cost of crime, and it has to think about the cost of prevention of the crime. Remember, this is the very critical role of law, how law can minimize the cost of crime. Every crime is going to take away some assets. It is going to cost something to the society. So how that cost can be reduced is a very relevant question. An act should be punished. Now we come to the answering of the question. An act should be punished if it has social cost. So this is the general observation of all the economists, that only those acts can be taken out which creates a social cost. That means if you look at the limits of crime, this can be one of the yardsticks. So whether there is social cost, if there is social cost, then it becomes a crime and therefore it has to be punished. So logically we are saying wherever there is social cost, punishment should be there and it should be considered as a crime. Now if you look at the components of social cost is equal to cost of crime plus cost of crime prevention. My dear friends, we have to take out pen and paper and identify what are the costs of crime. For example, somebody is selling banned items. Should that be allowed? What can be the cost of that crime? Certain things which are to be avoided in our society, if that is going to be sold in the society, will that be a good idea? What can be the cost of crime? There can be eve teasing, there can be different kinds of offenses against property, body, and there can be intellectual property crimes also. So we have to note down what can be the costs of crime and what is the cost of prevention. For example, having the burglary alarm, uh, installing CCTV, having a department of investigation, the courts, different kinds of infrastructure which is required, the street lamps, all this will be the cost of prevention, right? So there can be entire system of items which come under prevention, and there can be entire list of items that we lose as a society and which becomes the cost of crime. So this becomes a homework for you people. Can we identify the cost of crime, and can we have the list of cost of prevention? Think about it. It's not very difficult. If you look around, you find every element in the society is dedicated towards either the cost of crime prevention, or it is dedicated to reduction of the cost of crime. So remember, an act should be punished if it has social cost, right? And there are two components of social cost. One is the cost of crime, another is cost of prevention, right? Now if you look at crime as a topic, it can be resolved under two headings. One is what is coming under the morality. So remember, there is a legal solution which comes under morality, and utilitarian thought should be remembered, utilitarianism or retribution. These are the two solutions which are pretty old. People have tried it, and people historically have seen it as the genesis of all the punishment systems that we have created. This is the oldest thought. So utilitarianism is basically dedicated to a system where it thinks about the greatest good for greatest number. Of course, we have to remember the two great scholars who are behind this thought, Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. These are the two important scholars who thought about utilitarianism. Remember, they had 2-3 very important opinions. One is the whole philosophy of cost benefit analysis. So when you are encountered with a crime, you should have an attitude of cost benefit analysis. Remember, greatest good of greatest number, this should be little edited, greatest good of greatest possible number, right? So this brings us to an important question. When we come to crime prevention, which crimes will be prevented, which will not be prevented? So we have to set a yardstick of priority. So according to the priority, the prevention mechanism will work. Clear? Sometimes it happens that the cost of prevention is so high, right? And the benefit of prevention is low, and therefore society decides that certain things cannot be monitored all the time. So we can have mechanisms, but we cannot have a foolproof mechanism so that there is 24/7 monitoring, and by that logic we cannot completely arrest certain crimes. So we overlook certain crimes, and therefore this creates a problematic situation. Remember, in utilitarianism, the individual is made an example in front of the society. In other words, the individual rights of a person may be taken away if that punishment creates a benefit. So punishment is justifiable. The pain of punishment is justifiable if it creates positive benefits for the society. Clear? So when you talk about utilitarianism, there will be 2-3 consequences. One, the punishment mechanism will be there. So punishment becomes a panacea. Punishment becomes a solution for the problems. So punishment is a very good thing in the eyes of Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. Till that time it helps the society. to resolve the problems, right? So that is the first observation. Second observation is incapacitation of the person. So we have to take the person out of the society, and when you do that, society goes through healing, because the wrongdoers who are present in the society will create a problem for the normal human beings in the society. So we have to ostracize people and we have to give jail term, right? So the whole philosophy of penology, of jailing people, it comes from utilitarianism. And the last one, we have to also think about rehabilitation of the criminals, wrongdoers, the delinquent people, because if you don't rehabilitate them, again it creates a problem for the society. So guys, importantly, utilitarianism has three line of thoughts. One, punish the wrongdoer. Punishment is good. Punishment is a pain which is actually curing the problems of the society. Second, do not punish the innocent. Again, it is a very important yardstick. Of course, it is very debatable how some people are declared as criminals, how some people roam around as innocent. This is very debatable, but however, to restrict the lengthy discussion, we have to concentrate on major points which are coming under utilitarianism. And remember, we have to think about the third point is proportional punishment. So we cannot be very heavy-handed, multiple punishments for the same offense, what we call double jeopardy. It should not be entertained in a good society. So utilitarianism has its own value, and even today we are following it, but it has certain issues also. So there are certain criticisms of utilitarian thought. Number one, individual is always at a smaller position in front of the social needs and social rights. So individual rights have to be given away. So if you are going to do something wrong, that wrong is against the society, and that therefore for the goodness of the society I need to punish you. So it is justifiable to punish. That is the first criticism, that the individual diversity, the individual needs sometimes have to be kept aside in order to take care of the society. That is the first criticism. Second criticism, we see that the punishment as a yardstick may not be the solution, because now when you talk about the extent of punishment, are you going to punish somebody for 100 years, 200 years? Today we are talking about compounding of the sentences. So will that be a good solution? For example, is death penalty a good solution? Somebody takes a life, so you also take a life. So will that be a good solution? Is a very interesting criticism. Similarly, the utilitarian system is very heavy-handed, right? So sometimes the rule of proportionality is forgotten. Just think about the plight of under trials, the problem in the judiciary, the problem of lack of equality. Today, if you say that a person's conviction is very much related to the quality of the advocate, that is not a very fair position. And utilitarianism has its own issues. Similarly, the other strand of thought is retribution. Retribution literally means punishment which is inflicted on a person as a vengeance for a wrong or criminal act. That is the dictionary meaning of retribution. So now here we go into the other direction. So if punishment is futuristic, retribution is looking backward. So for all the wrong things that you have done in life, I will punish you. If that is the attitude, again retribution may not be the right solution. So guys, we have to think about the philosophy of utilitarian thought and retribution. Will vengeance work for us? If we are going to treat crime through vengeance, through utilitarianism, is it going to be the good solution? So looking at the entire discussion, we have to turn back to the economic solution. So if we consider the cost of crime and cost of crime prevention, that seems to be a more efficient, sustainable, humane and futuristic solution rather than going for heavy-handed punishment and retribution as a system. So in the next lecture, we will look at the components of crime. And remember this, we will begin with this. Crime has 4 important components. One is what we call as mens rea or criminal intent. Without the criminal intent, it cannot be a crime. Secondly, it has to be a public harm. It has to have the component of public harm. And the third is the standard of proof has to be studied in a different manner. And as they say that beyond doubt, you have to prove beyond doubt, then only the standard of proof will be acceptable. And then we talk about the last important component, the proportionality of punishment. So what can be the punishment, how the punishment will be meted, what will be the effect. So this is the entire discussion about the penological side of crime. So in the upcoming class we will talk about the various components of crime. So I hope this short presentation is going to help you in your studies, and pardon me for my very bad handwriting. Next time we'll think about some PowerPoint presentation, but I thought to quickly help you, this will be the best method. So hope to see you, and please give me feedback about this particular video. So we are concluding this video titled Crime and Punishment and Economic Analysis of Crime. Thank you so much.